Namaskar, Nileshok here. Another session of Adhika masa discussion. In this session, we will discuss how Adhika masa is predicted using Sripati's method and how its validation can be easily achieved or easily demonstrated using any modern astronomy software. Oh, I need to be careful and cautious. Not any modern astronomy software is sophisticated, precise, and accurate modern astronomy software, such as Voyager 4.5. Of course, there are many others, but not every modern astronomy software is accurate and precise enough for this particular demonstration. We will see why that is so. Now, Sripati's method depends on looking for that opportunity when two consecutive Amavasyas occur when sun is still in the same Rashi, same zodiac. And that defines the location for the insertion of Adhika Mas. And if we go backwards from the position point of Amavasya, note down the Nakshatra of the full moon, that tells us what should be the name of a Adhika Mas. Now, in reality, what happens is slightly different, close enough, but not identical. After I posted the previous part on Adhika Masa, one viewer, Einstein-wala, wrote to me, and he wrote an amazing email. Now, this is the kind of email that I would like to see. That is not to say I don't enjoy the other emails and other comments. And my apologies, I didn't mean email. Actually, this was a comment written in response to that YouTube video right there in the comment section. This is a wonderful comment. So I took a liberty to split it into 4 or 5 different points. All right. So the first point he makes, now he doesn't number it this way. I have numbered it for a reason. He says, sun trajectory as observed from Earth is elliptical, obeying Kepler's law, which is why it will take a variable number of days to cross the Rashi. Excellent point. Do watch my videos on Bharat Dinadarshika or Introduction to Indian Lunisolar Calendar and such. What you will find is that sometimes sun takes only 29 days to cross those 30 degrees of a given Rashi. At other times, it may take up to 32 days to cross a specific Rashi, the same 30 degrees, okay? And the reason that Einstein-Walla has given correctly is that because the sun's trajectory as observed from the Earth is elliptical. So if sun is away from the Earth, in its elliptical path, then sun would move slowly. It would appear to move slowly as seen from the Earth. If its location is closer to the Earth in its elliptical path, then sun would appear to move faster. Now, ditto for the moon. And that's what also was pointed out by him. Of course, moon's trajectory too is elliptical. So time to traverse from exact spot on trajectory for Purnima Amavasya, which may not be exactly neither apogee or perigee, to next Amavasya Purnima, may not be exactly half of period from Amavasya to Amavasya or Purnima to Purnima. That's correct. Which is to say, the time taken by moon to complete one cycle from Amavasya to Amavasya. Yes, it is on an average 29.53 days, but in reality, that number can be slightly bigger or it can be slightly smaller. All right. So now combine these two effects And we have got a third effect that is easy to compute if we have all the data, but it's not easy to compute for an ordinary individual. Okay, it's not easy to put those things in algorithms in a computer program, okay, and let the computer do the job. So that actually allows us to appreciate the ancient Hindus, and their amazing techniques and technologies, tantra yuktis that they built to perform these very complicated calculations. I can tell you these complicated calculations or even simple calculations were simply impossible with Roman numerals or simply impossible for the likes of Greek or Roman civilizations. So when someone from a Ivy League school, Ivy League university professor, live or dead, tells you that Greeks or Roman gave astronomy to India, you have to take it with not just a pinch of salt, but 100-kilogram block of salt, okay? The third point, the major axis of sun and moon trajectories are also not perfectly aligned. So all these calculations must be fairly complex, and kudos to Sripati or unknown originator to figure it all out. That's correct. Now, what I would say is the major axis or major or minor axis and their trajectories, they're kind of captured in point 1 and 2. However, there are many other minor issues, and I'll not even list them. They can go into number into like 5 or 10 or 15, and they can have the minor effects. And depending on the additive or subtractive nature of these effects can add up to the dominant phenomenon already expressed in point 1 and 2. Okay, all right. Now let's go to the next one. So Einstein-Walla is kind of ruminating and just wondering, rightfully so. He says, how much of a variable speed with or without knowledge of elliptical trajectories was known to Sripati? Well, we don't know the answer to that. In a way, we do know the answer, but I don't want to digress and get into the modeling, the mathematical modeling that already existed, very much simplified for practical and pragmatic purposes in Surya Siddhanta. It exists in Surya Siddhanta. Now, keep in mind, over time, the astronomy constants change. So they need to be adjusted. And that has not happened for a long time, at least not happened for the last 1500 years. So therefore, using the same numbers from Surya Siddhanta may not work today. But the foundations are there for anyone to refine it. Also, I want to add one more point. Sometime, and my background is chemical engineering, and I can tell you from that experience that while we start with the first principle, we may build a simple model. And for our ignorance, we start adding constants, sometimes non-dimensional numbers like Reynolds numbers and Stanton number and Smith's number and so on, and use the power laws and try to create the equations based on our understanding of it. But we try to capture that ignorance into the constants. My point is, if somebody rigorously collects enormous amount of data and has the ability to put it together in a scientific fashion using ingenious techniques, tantra yukti, tarka shastra, the person can compensate for our inability to build a perfect model with sheer empirical data. Okay, so we don't know what access Sripati had, but if we have to go by what we do know about Surya Siddhanta, it's fair to say that Sripati actually may have access to very precise data or actually even models. And I'll just show you a small demonstration of that. But let's go to the next point. This is also very interesting, and thank you, Einstein-Walla, for doing this. Point number 5, if our astronomers could know distance sooner or later, Kepler's laws would have been figured out. Was such knowledge there? And I would say the answer is actually decisive yes. Now, did they actually know about the Kepler's law the way we know post-Newton? I do not know the answer to that. However, they knew enough that they knew the motions were not circular. They were something different. Frankly, they could figure out exactly what those motions were because they modeled it. But the way they modeled it was in a pragmatic fashion so that an individual, without actually knowing the nitty-gritty details of it, will able to use it in a practical manner to figure out the desired calculations and come up with an answer. I don't know if that that I made it complicated, but I'll show you a demonstration of that, and I'll encourage you to watch my talks at Sangam Talk and other places on Surya Siddhanta. The last one, I mean, yeah, that is his comment. Anyways, very interesting and lucid explanation on Adhika masa. Thank you, Einstein Walaji. Now, at least I have a bluffer level of knowledge about this. No, frankly, I can tell you based on your comments that you know this subject at a very deep level. Okay, so these are some of the important points, and I'll mention it. Especially remember number 4 and number 5. Okay. And of course, number 1 and number 2 also when we look at the validation. Okay, let's go next. That number 4 and number 5. I would say indirectly, and this is to be extremely conservative. So not make a claim whether they actually knew the nature of elliptical orbits in the sense we know about them, why they are elliptical post-Newton. I don't know that. However, if you go back to, and these are again very interesting times there. I'm saying elliptical orbits, Surya Siddhanta shows direct or indirect evidence for ancient Indian astronomers, ancient Hindu astronomers having an awareness, knowledge of elliptical orbits for the sun and also for like a two-body system. Of course, that's how the orbit is elliptical, two-body problem, okay, we can say. So if we go back, say, and Surya Siddhanta and look at the equation of the sun, okay, the equation that is given in Surya Siddhanta to predict the position of the sun throughout the year, guess what? They started with that circular orbit and they adjusted for the elliptical nature of the solar orbit around the Earth, of course, as seen from the Earth, using something known as pulsating epicycles. I would encourage you to read original paper of Dr. Anil Narayanan. He's an aeronautical engineer, also used to be scientist at ISRO in the past. And I had an opportunity to work with him together on certain things. In fact, we published a paper together in the peer-reviewed journal. Okay, now this is only for those bozos who are stuck in the foolishness and nonsense and in dogma of peer-reviewed papers. All right. The second opportunity or second instance, right in Surya Siddhanta, comes from the 12th chapter. And there are 3 references, all 3 of them in 12th chapter. That's not a necessity, but they happen to be in the 12th chapter. What are they saying? They are in the 12th chapter, there is a description that at some point there were 2 pole stars. Of course, not 2 pole stars in one place, but one bright pole star in the north, one bright pole star in the south. It also describes Actually, there is a fourth element it describes, but I'll not go there, because when Rupa Bhattiji and myself, we presented our work at the Oxford conference, we had not taken into account that fourth factor, the fourth data point, which also beautifully matches for this 12,000 BCE. But because we have not written about it yet, I will not mention it. But besides the two pole stars, there are two additional phenomena. One of them is the obliquity, and that happens to be 24 degree. Okay, that is also given in the 12th chapter. There is another place where the obliquity is given as a R sign value, 1397. I will encourage you to take this as a homework, reading Surya Siddhanta, those of you who are interested. The third reference, then all of them, 3 plus 1, 4 of them come together for one specific year, that is 12,000 BCE. And it's my open challenge to all the astronomy researchers around the world. Everyone is included. No one is excluded from this challenge, to see if you can think of any other epochs besides 12,000 BCE which will satisfy these four conditions. Even three conditions. Surprise, surprise. Okay. What is that third condition, by the way? That is given right here. Atyasannatayatena grishme tivra kararave deva bhage suranam tu hemante mandatanyatha. In our times, if you notice, and again, with the global warming and all these multiple factors, it's not very easy to detect it. But in general, it's reasonable to say, of course, depending on where you live, but let's take India, because this is the experience of Indian astronomers of antiquity. You will find that the summer tends to be longer. Okay, the Vasanta Rutu feels like a summer, and the Sharad Rutu feels like a summer, the rainy season feels like a summer, and the Grishma Rutu feels like a summer. And actually, frankly, as soon as the January is over, we are still in part of the Shishir Rutu, but February feels like summer. And that may be also true for, say, October and even sometime November. I don't know. I have not lived in India for a long time now. Now, in comparison to that, if you go back to the Ramayana times, that's 12,000 BCE, or as given in the Surya Siddhanta. So it's not only Surya Siddhanta is saying something, but actually what Surya Siddhanta is saying coincides with what is described in Ramayana. But that's another subject. So the third point is this atyasannatayatena krishme tivra kararave deva bhage suranam tu hemante mandatanyatha, which is, I'm simplifying it and saying, at the time of Ramayana, 12,000 BC, it was somewhat opposite of what we are experiencing today. Because remember, in the cycle of the precession, we are at the opposite points. It's a 26,000 year cycle. So half of that is 13,000. So we are at the opposing points. And while we find that summer is longer, the experiential summer is longer for us. At the time of Ramayana, they experience longer winter in comparison to summer. Now, the summer would be intense, but it was shorter. All right. In our times, we might actually say, although it doesn't feel like that, that it's a milder winter that we may feel. Okay. But it's very short. Okay. So this is a second instance of ancient Indian astronomers, ancient Hindu astronomers having a knowledge of the elliptical orbits. So they knew that actually this happens. And as the coincidence would have it, as the Bhagavad Krupa would have it, these two instances match with the Mahabharata times, 5500 BC approximately, and the Ramayana times 12,000 BC. All right. And this is what is shown for that 12,000 BC. The two pole stars, the Vega was the pole star in the north, Abhijit or Brahma Rashi, those are the other names. Canopus or Agastya, that's two different names. Canopus is modern astronomy, Western astronomy. Agastya is Indian name. That was a pole star that acted as a pole star in the south. Brahma Rashi, Abhijit, Vega acted as a pole star in the north. And the other two conditions that I said, the obliquity was 24, and Also, they had a longer winter in the northern hemisphere, India, think of India, and a shorter but intense summer. All right. Okay. Let's get to our subject. These are my books, including Yuganta by Jeevan Rao. If you are interested, if you are in India through Subbu Publications, if you are outside India through Amazon. Okay, the validating the Adhika masa. Okay, so predicting and validating. What I'm going to do is just to ensure the timing of the video remains reasonable and not too long. I will take from this list from 2012, starting with 2012 to say 2021, we will do validation of, let's say, these first two. Okay, so in the time period 2012-2013, Bhadrapad occurred as a Adhika Mas, and 2015-16 Ashada occurred as a Adhika Mas. And then the next two here, you can take this as a homework. Okay, access a sophisticated astronomy software and do the validation for yourself. You can refer to this video to see how to do the validation. And I just said predicting the future Adhika Masa. If you start with our times this year, there was Shravan was the Adhika Mas in 2023. If you go to 2026-27, you will find Jeshta would occur as Adhika Mas. And if you go to 2029, you will find Chaitra would occur as a Adhika Mas. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop this presentation and jump into the simulation. Okay, where we would begin our simulation is when the sun is at Nakshatra Chitra. See if you can recall. I said in our current Panchanga makers, by convention, so that they agree with each other and there is not much confusion, the position of the Yogatara for Nakshatra Chitra here, or in modern astronomy called Spica, this is used as the starting point for the 30-degree area of zodiac Libra or Tul Rashi. Okay, so that's what this is, B, beginning of Libra. And just this one is approximately is good enough. But if you want to know exact numbers, the right ascension, that's like longitude, 13 hours, 25 minutes. If I look at the sun's position, that would be 13 hours, 24 minutes. And if I look at this, where I have marked it, okay, just as approximate one is 1331, somewhere close. I needed some star to tag it. Okay, this is for very visual, practical purposes. Okay, so we have to be willing to accept that approximation. Okay, so sun is being tagged. What we are going to do now, remember our methodology as we proceed. So first I will just go slow. We want to see, we have now entered the area of Libra. We are in the zodiac Libra. We want to see how many occurrences of Amavasya. So here is one Amavasya. So there is one Amavasya. We want to just ensure and make sure if there is another Amavasya or no Amavasya before we cross this Rashi and enter new Rashi. We are ready to enter this new Rashi Scorpio. The B of Scorpio should tell you that only one Amavasya occurred. Okay, so no Adhika Masa. Remember, we need to have two Amavasyas occurring when sun is within the same Rashi. Okay, so this is the Amavasya for Scorpio. All right, now I'm going to speed up things and let's go here until we are ready to, okay. So here we entered Sagittarius here and then we had another Amavasya. Okay, now we are ready to enter Capricorn. I'll stop it here. So far only one Amavasya, right? Now we will notice here one Amavasya within Capricorn. Now we are entering Aquarius. Now let's notice Amavasya here. And we are ready to enter Pisces. So far only one Amavasya. Okay, so let's notice Now, this is the Amavasya in Pisces, okay? Let's monitor. Okay, we are ready to enter Aries. Only one Amavasya in Pisces, okay? So let's note down Amavasya while we are in Aries. That is this Amavasya. Okay, is there another Amavasya? The answer is no. Now we're in Taurus. This is Taurus Amavasya, when the moon passes by. Now we're entering Gemini. This is Gemini Amavasya. We are now entering Cancer. Okay, and so what we will say is that this is Cancer Amavasya. All right, okay. Now let's go further. And now we are ready at Leo here. Okay, so what happened? Only one Amavasya in Cancer. Now this is our Leo Amavasya, first Leo Amavasya. Let us see if we get the second Leo Amavasya. Okay, here. Well, it crossed, if you noticed. Okay. Now, what happens is this. The sun has crossed the point of the line, the zodiac line. However, also keep in mind, when sun attains the same longitude, same right ascension as the moon, that is the end of Amavasya, which is to say, if we have a distance between the sun and the moon is less than 12 degrees, Amavasya has begun. And at that point, if the position of the sun is in this existing zodiac, then we have to treat that Amavasya as the second Amavasya in that Rashi. Okay, so that's what we are going to do here. I mean, I can take time and show you, but I'll not waste your time. So 1134, and you can actually do the calculation, see what the 12-degree difference would be. So let's take it for a practical purposes. So we can actually have an error of plus minus 1 Rashi, okay, because we are just doing it with a visual observation in simulation and not doing the mathematical calculation. But suppose if this is the second Amavasya, when sun was still in the zodiac of Leo, okay, that's a Simva Rashi. In that case, we want to know what would that Adhika masa be, the name of Adhika masa. And what do we do? Remember what we did in the previous episode? We go backwards, take the moon to here, okay. Take the moon to full moon position and notice where the full moon position is. Okay, it's near between Shatabhishaj and say Purva Bhadrapada. So very likely that would be the lunar month of Bhadrapad. Now keep in mind, this month will be treated as a Adhika Bhadrapad. Okay, so I'm going to tag the moon and show you what happens. So this is Adhika Bhadrapad. The first month is Adhika Bhadrapad. Okay, so we will follow the moon. Okay, and why did we do that? Because two Amavasyas occurred within zodiac Leo. So this one, the first Adhika Bhadrapad is over. And now let's look at the full moon position. And this would be our Nija Bhadrapad or natural Bhadrapad, normal Bhadrapad. And the full moon position was near between Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Bhadrapad. Okay, and then now continues. The next month will be what? Ashwin, and so on. Okay, now what I need to do is again get hold of our sun. Again, now I will lock the sun and we will do one more. Okay, so this is the okay, so we just had an occurrence of full moon, sorry, pardon me, occurrence of Adhika Masa. Let's look for next instance of Adhika Masa. Okay, so for example, right here. Okay, so this Amavasya occurred while sun is still in this zodiac area of Libra. Okay, now it's entering Scorpio. But before it entered Scorpio, we already had Amavasya. So far we have had no Amavasya in Scorpio. Keep that in mind. So before it enters the next Rashi, I want to ensure that there was a Amavasya, and that is right here. Okay, now it is entering Sagittarius. There is no Amavasya in Sagittarius yet. Okay, I want to see it happens before it enters Capricorn, and it did happen before entering Capricorn. Okay, all right, you get an idea. Now we want to make sure there is Amavasya before it enters Aquarius. That's right here. Actually, Moon can be here and we still get Amavasya, when there is a separation of less than 12 degrees. Okay, the Amavasya begins. All right. So we want to ensure that there is only one Amavasya within any given area of a zodiac. Now we are in Pisces, we get our Amavasya. Now we are in Aries. Here is our Aries Amavasya. Now we are in Taurus. And here is our Taurus Amavasya. I hope everyone understands what I'm doing. Anytime you see this sign, beginning of next zodiac, that is the boundary. Okay, that's the boundary. So when sun goes right here, that is a Sankranta. This is a Mithun Sankranta, because sun is entering Mithun Rashi, Gemini Rashi. Okay. Now we will see the Amavasya when sun is in Gemini. That was that. And now this is a Cancer Sankranta or Karka Sankranta, because sun is entering Karka Rashi. We will find Amavasya for Karka Rashi now. That's the one. Now we will notice Amavasya when sun is in Leo. Right here. Let's notice, watch for Amavasya when sun is in Virgo here. Now sun is in Libra. And here is that Amavasya. Here is Amavasya for the next Rashi, and now it's in Sagittarius. Let's notice the Amavasya in Sagittarius right there. Now we enter Capricorn. Watch for Amavasya here. We enter Aquarius. Amavasya. We enter Pisces. Watch for Amavasya here. We enter Aries. Amavasya here. We enter Taurus. Amavasya. We enter Gemini. Amavasya. We enter Cancer. Amavasya. We are entering Leo. Amavasya. We are entering Virgo. Amavasya. We are entering Libra. Amavasya. We are entering Scorpio. Amavasya. We are entering Sagittarius, that is Dhanu. And here is Amavasya. We are entering Capricorn. And here is Amavasya. Notice what is happening. The Amavasya is shifting backwards, right? Here is Aquarius and Amavasya. Because remember, Amavasya comes faster, faster in comparison to ability of sun to cross the Rashi. Okay, so it's happening much closer. As soon as sun is doing its Sankranta, it's crossing into next Rashi, and Amavasya is occurring now. So we are getting very close to another instance of a Adhika masa. Okay, all right. So Let me just go and make sure what we saw. Okay, here. So for example, go back. Okay, here, here. Okay, the Amavasya has not occurred yet. Of course, that was okay. So this is Amavasya. Now, see, no, we don't know for sure. Okay, just from a visual picture. Should we consider this Amavasya as the Amavasya occurring in the Taurus area? Okay, or should we consider this Amavasya occurring in Gemini? Okay, how can we do that? We can do it in this fashion. Okay, this is just for a visual purposes. So what I will do, I'm going back to, okay, let me do it fast, to Taurus. Okay, so here is, sorry. Okay, I'm going backward and forward. Okay, so here, okay, so I'm entering Taurus. Amavasya has not occurred. And here is Amavasya. I can definitely confidently feel that this is the first Amavasya of Taurus. So now the question is, does the second Amavasya occurs before sun crossed into Gemini? The answer is no. Okay, so I am willing to take, there can be error of plus minus one Rashi. I'm willing to take this, okay, as the situation described by Sripati. And to know the name of my Adhika masa, I am going to go back here and see what happened. The full moon came near Jeshta. Now, if you look at my presentation, where I have pulled these Adhika masa from Panchanga, they have listed it as Ashada. So in this case, just look, using a visual observation, I made a mistake of 1 month. Okay, so let's correct that mistake. To err is human. Okay, and therefore I did not do this deliberately, but I did mention that with a visual observation, even in astronomy software, we can make an error of plus minus one Rashi. Okay, so that was not intentional, but I'm glad it happened. Okay, so what I want to do is find the position of the moon here. And what I am going to consider is this one not happening in the area of Taurus itself, which means I am going to count this Amavasya as the first Amavasya of Gemini. Okay, everyone with me? Okay, so if that is the case, then let us see if the second Amavasya happens before sun crosses Gemini. I can assure you it will happen. Okay, so here, there we go. Okay, so right now it's just crossing, but remember, the sun can be here, sorry, the moon can be here, less than 12 degrees. Sun is still within the area of Gemini, and the Amavasya has begun. So essentially, we have two Amavasyas here when sun was still in the area of zodiac Gemini or Mithun. So now if I want to find out what lunar month it is, and of course, number of you can guess what it is now. If I go back by 15 days from this Amavasya, okay, it's going to take me to the area of Ashada here. Okay, so that just tells me, okay, so this is the Adhika Mas of Ashada. So the first month I will treat it as Adhika Mas. The second month I will treat it as a Nija Masa, Nija Ashada, the natural Ashada. All right, so I showed the validation for two Adhika Masa. The first one occurred between 2012-2013, and it was Bhadrapad. The second one that we just validated right now occurred 2015-2016, here, July 2015, and that was the Adhika Ashada. That's it, guys. And that completes our validation of Sripati's method. The next question we need to ask, and this is where many individuals make mistakes. Many half knowledgeable Indic researchers, either of the West or the East, but so far I have experienced them in the East, and by that I mean in India or of Indian origin, who have made a royal mess, which is to say, they do not understand the effect of the precession of the Earth's axis, what it does on the lunar months and the corresponding seasons. So the question is, well, let's put it this way. Why do we insert Adhika Mas? So that we can synchronize the lunar calendar with solar calendar. Now, why do we want to synchronize? So that the lunar months, which are loosely connected with a specific season, that synchronization is maintained. But the next question we should ask now is this. Okay, that's just fine. Now, why we are synchronizing? Because the lunar year is not same as solar year. There is a gap of 11 days. And if we don't synchronize, the gap keeps on getting bigger and it creates bigger problems. But is this correction of Adhika Masa, is it capable of compensating for the effects of precession, the precession of the Earth's axis? That is the question. That is what we will discuss, analyze into the next episode in this series. And I'll give you the answer. Is Adhika Masa correction capable of compensating for the long-term effects due to the precession of the Earth's axis? And the answer is no. That's it for today. Please write your comments, and I'll see you soon, shortly, in another episode, possibly the last episode in this Adhika Masa series, where we will look at if Adhika Masa correction can compensate for the long-term effect of precession. The answer is no. And since if that is the case, then what do we need to do? And do we have evidence of Adhika Masa not compensating for the precession, or do we have evidence of the effects of precession on the lunar months and their corresponding seasons documented, captured in our ancient Indian narratives? We will briefly look at that in the next and the last episode in this series. And again, the answer is decisive yes, absolutely, everywhere. You talk of Rigveda, you talk of Brahmana Grantha, you talk of Samhitas, you talk of Upanishad, you talk of Itihasa, such as Mahabharata or Ramayana, you talk of Puranas, it's there everywhere. You refer to Ayurvedic text like a Sushrut Samhita, Charaka Samhita, yes, it is there. Thank you. I'll see you shortly. Namaskar.